Hello fragrance lovers, I hope you are I hope you are well, but I do also hope that you are smelling good. It's essential to me that you smell good whilst listening to this podcast, so if you don't, please pause, rectify that, and come back. Thank you. Welcome back to yet another episode of Making Sense Makes Sense, the podcast that is all about demystifying the wonderful world of scent in a way that is fun and accessible without snobbery, gatekeeping, or BS. As ever, I am Thomas Dunkley and I'm your host. I am on a mission to get into the nitty-gritty with some of the fragrance industry's most interesting people, quizzing them all about what they do and how they make this perhaps the most fascinating industry on the planet. Today's guest is the wonderful Olivia da Costa, founder and creative director of Olfactive O. Do you ever meet those people who just radiate pure light? Olivia is one of those people. She exudes warmth and generosity, and Olfactive O is a brand that's very much in line with that. Olfactive O puts accessibility at the heart of everything it does. For a start, the fragrances are priced really reasonably for niche fragrances, starting at £65 for 30ml. Each one also has a really straightforward concept. The name is typically, but not always, a fragrance family, and each comes with a personality statement which is printed on the label. So before you've even sniffed the scent, you've got a pretty spot-on idea of what it's all about, just by picking up the bottle. It's a brand I really love, and I'm so glad to have Olivia on the podcast to talk all about how she created something so special. And we also spent some time talking about her brand new launch, the out-of-this-world, beautiful new earth. So let's just dive straight into that interview after a very brief word from our sponsors. This episode of Making Sense Make Sense is sponsored by Carium. Did you know that smell is the only one of our senses that doesn't have a specific language? To talk about the smells we experience, we must borrow from our other senses, relying on the language of texture, colour, sound, taste, and emotion to describe what our noses experience. Carium's innovative AI technology puts language at the centre of the user experience. Using a large language model built with vast amounts of textual data, it maps how scents are described in language, coupling this with the customer's own word associations to guide them to unexpected fragrance matches. It's not just about AI, it's about immersive storytelling through scent, allowing customers to see, smell, and feel fragrances in a way that connects to their memories and emotions. The Scent Sommelier uses language to deliver a precise personal recommendation that feels both scientific and emotional in 3 easy steps. 1. Customers select the type of fragrance they're searching for from a choice of up to 16 fragrances from a single brand or multiple brands. 2. They tap through a series of scent and word cues, and with each tap, AI adapts. And 3. The Scent Sommelier identifies their signature fragrance, all whilst the customer smells along in an interactive experience. Carium's The Scent Sommelier launched in the UK last summer and can be found in Selfridges on Oxford Street as part of the Famine counter, and also at the Richmond fragrance boutique Parfum La Danse. So why not pop in and see how the language of scent and Carium's innovative AI solution can guide you to discover a new fragrant love. Olivia, it's such a joy to have you on the podcast properly. I know that you came and you did a flyby when I was at Barnes last year and came and chatted for a minute or two. But it's really lovely to have you on the podcast to talk long form about everything Olfactive O. So thanks for joining me.
Thank you for having me. I'm very honoured to be on your podcast.
It's an absolute pleasure to have you. Now, I know that fragrance and smell is a huge part of your life, but what I'm really curious to know is, do you remember when you first consciously thought about smell?
Yes, I do, because I still think about it quite a lot. I guess as creating scent, you always think, where did it start? And it's my grandma's bathroom. I remember the house, I must have been quite young, but I remember the bathroom, the colour of it was very pink, and she always had imperial leather soap. It's like ingrained in me, that the memory of those hand soaps in her bathroom, and I still love imperial leather soap bars for that reason. She also had Badadas. That was a very core memory, and it was those two smells that made me think, I like smell. This is nice and this is comforting. It was always associated with sleepovers at hers as well. So happy scent memories.
Yeah, and there's a really kind of beautiful and distinct smells as well, aren't they? Badadas and Imperial Leather. So nice ones to carry with you. When did you first start getting into perfume? So from graduating from sort of an appreciation of smell to, oh, I like fragrances. And can you remember what the first fragrance was that you kind of bought for yourself?
Yeah, I was a geek, like a geek when I was younger. I was just not cool, and I was so not cool. I still think I'm just never going to be cool. I was bullied. A lot of us were bullied, but I had like a mushroom hair bob. I didn't know what to do with my hair. I was really short, but have big feet. I still have big feet for the vertical height that I am. And so fragrance was just like a kind of haven because you could wear it and feel confident, and no one could kind of bully you for your appearance, or they couldn't say you didn't smell bad. It was a way of expressing yourself that felt safe, but you could still put yourself out there. So I went for big fragrances quite rapidly. I started with the Disney fragrance, which I loved. And I still remember what that smelled like, quite aldehydic and soapy, but really, really a gorgeous scent. And I treasured it. And then very swiftly moved to Dior Addict. Boom. And Dior Poison. And that was, I mean, I was like, yeah, this really short little mushroom bobbed 10-year-old, just Dior Poison. And treasured those bottles as well because they weren't cheap for a little person, lots of pocket money.
That's amazing. A 10-year-old in poison. That's quite the tour de force. I love that. But also, I like how you were dealing with something so negative, and you would think that one sort of reaction to that is to shrink inwards, but you didn't. You almost like put that fragrance on like an armor to
Yeah,
kind of I don't know whether to repel people or just say I don't care. I'm here.
yeah, totally. I think also it was an age where my mum was still deciding what I wore. My shoes, I had like terrible geeky school shoes and sandals, and outfits, and so perfume was my way of saying this is what I want, this is who I am in quite a big way. It enables you to express those bits of yourself that perhaps you're not that confident, you wouldn't necessarily put on in clothing at that age, or dye your hair a certain color. But perfume feels like a much more accessible way of going big.
Yeah, it's a bit of self-expression that you can own for yourself. And what I'd quite like you to do is if you could give me a list of the names of all your childhood bullies, and I will track them down, because how dare they do that to my good friend Olivia. I'm very angry at that. If there's any consolation, me and my brother, we also suffered the 90s bowl cut, mushroom haircut thing. And we on the school bus, we got the nicknames. He was Bobby Bowler and I was Baby Bowler. So I feel your pain. the,
Please, I need
yeah,
to
okay,
see.
fine.
You need
I will dig out some bowl cut pictures
I
for you.
promise you, mine are worse. It was like Hiroshima on my head.
No.
Yeah.
Oh dear. Yeah. Okay. I do empathize with you there. That's not good. Um, so you have this love of perfume, this love of these big, heavy hitting fragrances, but actually the career you start working out in is quite different from fragrance. You've worked as a buyer for brands like John Lewis and the White Company. How do you feel that those roles kind of primed you and prepared you for when you came to creating a fragrance brand?
They were like instrumental, like quite critical to it all, because I had loved perfume for so long and was building up this little private collection of Disney and Dior. But it wasn't until I became a buyer that I understood how you could create your own from end to end. So every element of fragrance creation. And so John Lewis, I bought. I was there for 7 years, and I bought all sorts of things, including toilet brushes, bathroom cabinets, wooden flooring was a really glamorous one. But also, when I worked in the bar shop department, I started buying some fragrance like soaps and body washes. And I thought, this is amazing. This I'm really loving. And then at White Company, I was the fragrance buyer. And that was the most amazing role, because you are doing everything from working with fragrance houses through to the packaging design, the bottling, the box. And that is so important as as a independent creator, you have to understand all of the pieces to make the puzzle. It is not just the sort of the lovely part of sitting there and smelling things. It's all of you have to make a commercial product as well, ultimately, and work out how you can create a great product at a great price as well. So those roles, they taught me everything. Yeah.
So they gave you not only a sense of what the retailers wanted, but I suppose also what works and what doesn't work in the retail environment as well.
Yeah. You get an understanding of what the customer likes, what's important, what's important in like design as well as with the product, how important the bottle is and the finish and the label. And I mean, I'm already pretty obsessive about every detail, but White Company really ingrains that in you as well. It kind of builds it into your buyer's DNA, like label finish, label corners. I mean, we've just moved label manufacturers, and I mean, this is tiny, but our labels have a tiny little rounding on the corner, and you have to pay a little bit more to get a different cutter. But that is so important because the first thing you're going to see is the bottle and the label, and that has to look lovely, and it has to be a projection of what is you're going to find in the bottle. So I'm going off on a tangent about labels, but yeah.
No, that's fine. This is if you're going to go on any podcast and go on a tangent about perfume bottle labels, I promise you this is the podcast for that.
Okay, great.
So you do this, you work in buying, you start doing the fragrance buying, you get to understand the creative side, and then also what works, what doesn't work, the attention to detail that seems to be really kind of instilled there. So when does the idea for the fragrance brand come into it? You know, you've created Olfactive O, it's such a unique brand. Where did that come from, and what inspired you to do it yourself?
So when I was buying fragrance and I was really delving into the world of perfume, I got obsessed with the world of niche. I would go to Bloom Perfumery on the regular, and it was kind of on the beginning of its upward cusp. I mean, niche is now so much more out there that so many niche brands are not niche anymore. And what frustrated me is that the market then, and to some extent still now, seemed very polarized. You had niche brands doing incredible things, but quite alienating for most customers. Where do you start? Exquisite, creative formulations, but most didn't know how to even that they existed or the way in. And then you had mass brands who were kind of messaging at customers with big marketing campaigns, models, lovely ladies coming out of the sea draped in gold, and man on mountain. And I thought there must surely be a way to create exquisite, fine fragrance, niche, creative constructions that customers can find their way into. That was it. I just wanted to make niche accessible, and I felt that the way to do that was to show people what fragrances are right for them, what suits their personality. So I had this dream, and it started whilst I was at White Company, and before I went on maternity leave, I started putting some of the pieces in place to explore whether it was possible.
And so the idea then comes, then you create Olfactive O, and it's really this partnership between you are the O, and then you have the Olfactive, which is your top secret perfumer, which is not really, it's not a gimmick, it's just more that he's someone who likes to be outside of the limelight, right? It's just his preference. So how did you meet, and how did that partnership come together?
Was introduced to him through a friend in the industry, and we met. I was really heavily pregnant with my first little girl. We met in the Whole Foods in Kensington and had a chat, and it was like, hi, total strangers meeting. This was 10 years ago now, and he said he kind of gave me a price for developing each of the fragrances, and I had 8 in mind for the launch collection. We launched with 5, and the budget for that, I mean, would have blown all of the savings I had put aside to grow, to even set up the business. So I was like, oh, okay, right, yeah, nice, okay, yeah, we'll come back to you. But we ended up just talking. He really loved the concept and what I wanted to create. And he loved the idea of the creative freedom it would give him. And so we carried on talking. And in the end, it was never a financial transaction. We just started developing these fragrances. And he's now a partner in the business. And yes, like you said, it's really not a gimmick. It is his preference. He is not about look at me. He wants the personalities to speak for themselves. He's worked for the big fragrance houses. He's worked with limiting budgets and wild creative briefs, and he just wants to create in his own little wilderness. And he loves seeing the perfumes go out there and what people say about them, and I share a lot of it with him, but he's just quite spiritual. I mean, he sits in a teepee in his studio and meditates on fragrance and does yoga and sends me pictures of himself like studying lily of the valley for the day. He is just very at peace, and I love that. It's a partnership that really works.
I was going to say, it just seems like you've met this lovely equilibrium because, a lot of these things, quite rightly and quite normally, start as a financial transaction. It's you want a product, you need someone to make it. That's how it works. But what it sounds like is you've both seen in each other something that is kind of this like beautiful companionship in a way that helps you create beautiful things. And I suppose that allows you to be sort of a little bit more front and center, coming up with the ideas and then setting those creative challenges for him. Do you feel that the way that you work together has changed or developed over time?
Yeah, like hugely. I think because at the beginning it wasn't a financial transaction, and as much as I knew about fragrance, I'd never worked directly with a perfumer to this level of detail. So at the beginning, I definitely felt like my voice was quieter than his in the development, whereas compared to now, 10 years on, he says that I have pushed his creativity and what he is making like so much further, and that some of our fragrances like Gourmand, which I know is your favorite, he would never have made if it hadn't have been a kind of direction that we went on. I was used to at White Company or at John Lewis, you brief a fragrance house. Here is my creative concept. Here's my PowerPoint. Here's my images, my colors, and my words. And within 3 to 4 weeks, you get your samples back. You smell them. You make edits. Off it goes. It's just so different. This is a iterative process over about 2 years of back and forth. Some of the fragrances have been quicker, but some of them, are a real journey. And we meet, we smell, we change, we edit. You saw yesterday just half of the development samples that went into New Earth. So I have learned so much. So I feel so much more confident about directing for it, our development as well.
Yeah, and it's that trusting your instinct as well, isn't it? Because you've got to get to a point where you feel like, do you know what? No, I know exactly what it is I want, and this isn't quite hitting it, or I think we've gone past it now. Let's go back. So
yes,
you're feeling that confidence much more now, and that inner voice, inner nose, I suppose, in a way, is kind of more forefront for you now.
100%. I think I always know what I like, but it's communicating that to him, and he is so receptive. I sometimes worry, I know how much work, and he doesn't have someone doing all the blending for him. He is doing it all himself. So I know how much work goes into every development sample. And I sometimes feel bad saying, this is just not, we've gone off in the wrong direction. And he like fully takes it all on board and he's just great. I had this whole anxiety panic. I have it with every fragrance before they launch, a huge anxiety that it's not good enough. We should have gone back there. Everyone's gonna hate it. And he said to me something really interesting. We had a really great chat, and he said, Olivia, it is a scientific fact, apparently. I might need to look this up, actually, I haven't, that you don't smell fully when you are anxious. You smell less. I think it's something with the the nerves or the, I don't know, the wiring interacting with the limbic system and how you're interpreting scent, but you don't smell fully. So I have to sometimes take a week off, step away, have a holiday from the fragrance, and then come back to it.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I suppose maybe your brain is prioritizing other senses because you're feeling a threat, aren't you? I suppose, yeah. And I think that's interesting. The commodity or the, I suppose, the hidden ingredient in all this is time and space, isn't it? You have to take the time to do it and the space to sit with things. So do you feel that that's something that you're more comfortable with doing now that you're feeling less like the pressure of, oh, I just want to get it done and ready, actually, that sometimes you have to take that time?
100%. I mean, I have an idea on, you have to set a deadline, a mental deadline for when you're going to deliver a fragrance, and that's very much ingrained in me as a buyer. You know, critical path, lead times, timeline, launch date. But I have always, and we have always flexed it slightly to allow for the additional development time, because I put so much into each fragrance. It has to be right. If you're going to do it, you have to love, you have to believe this is the one.
And I want to come back to this idea about making niche accessible, because I think this is something that Olfactive O does really well. And actually, the first time I ever experienced Olfactive O, I don't know if I've told you this, was back when I wasn't writing about perfume. Just very randomly, I'd left perfume completely, and I got a gift hamper completely out of the blue from Harvey Nichols that I wasn't expecting, with a load of launches in it, and it had this little bottle of Olfactive O Floral. And I was like, I've never heard of this brand. What is this brand? I don't know this brand. And then what I liked about it was the clarity and simplicity of it. Like this bottle that said floral on it. So I was like, okay, this is a floral. I know what that means. And then it had this little personality on it. And I can't remember specifically what the one for floral is. But, we've got Gourmand here, which it just says, I'm sensual, nostalgic, and indulgent. I was like, okay, that speaks to me. That makes sense in a way that you could give me a full list of notes on materials and I wouldn't get. I suppose I've got two questions. Question number one is, how central to the core idea of the brand was the personality side of things? And does each fragrance start with the personality? Does it start with the name, or do you just start with an idea? So those are your questions. Please answer them. Thank you.
And go. The personality was the starting point of the whole brand, like right back to, I look back at them and I'm a bit embarrassed, but my earliest little brand presentations that I made for myself, it was all 3 words to describe this personality. And I went to, I was starting to talk to a few different designers and I was showing it around, and some people loved it and some people were like, no, you can't put that on the label, you can't. But that has been the guiding principle and I've really stuck to it. And that's why I sometimes say, you have to be really single-minded about your brand and your vision. And that, I think, that is just the forefront of what we've always wanted to do. And I've had to be really clear about that all the way through. And I think it does make it the messaging really accessible. It's why, during COVID, even though everything was online, that was, that was really the start of our growth, because people could shop online and discover the moments, who this person was. They could send lovely gifts to people with, the personality that said something about who they were giving it to. And it felt very personal. So yeah, that has definitely been central, and it's where each fragrance starts. So let's take Floral Smoke. Unconventional, enigmatic, and bold. I had this personality in mind who just doesn't give 2 F's anymore. They kind of beat to their own drum. They are through the anxious years, and they are just like, this is what I want to wear. This is who I am. I collect weird things like fruit stickers, and I also hoard, and I'm cool with that. And I start to then build up an image. Pictures, words, colors. There's always a color associated with the personality, and I have to choose quite carefully because the perfumer is very literal. He will see a picture and take it as literal and then say, we can't use that one. I'm like, no, it's okay, that's just inspirational image. So I have to be very careful at that stage about what I share with him, and that is the starting off point for the fragrance. I very rarely brief in any notes at all at that stage. The starting point is the person, and he sits with those words and starts kind of building from there. Is that all your questions? You asked a few.
Yeah, that's all you did. You did great. 10 out of 10. Well done, you. I think that's really, really interesting that because you take it further beyond than what's on the label on the bottle, like you just started to describe there. You actually have a picture of a person, what kind of books they read, what they're doing in the weekends. You're kind of building this whole vision of them. But obviously you link currently sort of each fragrance is sort of linked to a fragrance family. So are you also briefing that vaguely, like when you do citrus, for example, that this is the personality and you're looking for a citrus vibe? I suppose is that where you're giving, that's the olfactory direction you give. And then do you then get really surprised by what comes back then?
Yes and no. So yes, it's the fragrance family, and then it's who is that fragrance family, and trying to bring them to life, and like fully immersing myself. And I start to imagine people, sometimes celebrities, like Karine Reutfeld was like a big inspiration for Floral Smoke, or even just like friends, like some school moms have been real inspirations. I call them like my New Earth muses for New Earth, and they're really embarrassed by that. But they very much are. What is generally the first stage of our development is we meet up in a random hotel in the middle of nowhere, which sounds really dodgy, but it's not. We have like a series of hotels somewhere in between where he lives in the north of England and me in the south, and we meet, and he has brought with lots of ideas, and almost every single time there is one that I pick out and say, this is amazing, this is the starting point. It happened with Gourmand. He had brought with a really chocolatey, quite tobacco-y base, and a top that was it had a bit more Coca-Cola in it, I remember, and I said, these two are so cool, we need to like find a marriage. Gourmand was quite a speedy one, actually. And then in the case of citrus, it was the same. He had instantly honed in. I was like, this is so good. And then we just started adding and layering and building more body into it.
That's really amazing. I love, I'm going to talk about Gourmand in a second because I could talk about that for ages, but I love the way that you are kind of briefing him, but you've sort of learned how to brief him in the right way. That's part of the development of the relationship, because you see where he's like slightly suggestible, and that thing is really interesting. Another thing about this accessibility is the price point. Like the price point is so reasonable. So they start at, for like a 30ml size, £65 I think is the price point. So they are super accessible, and I think they're kind of catered in a way to perfume lovers, because the great thing about having a 30ml at a reasonable price is you can have many of them. So was that again a real consideration for you? You wanted it to be small bottles at a good price?
Yeah, 100%. And I knew I could do it because of just some of the things, the tools, and my experience as a buyer as to how to ensure that the quality was in the bottle, but accessibly done. And I still manage to every single degree, every single piece that goes into this and into the bottle, to make sure that it is accessible. Obviously, we have to make a profit. We have to, the profit is to, keep redeveloping, keep doing new lovely things, but it's to make sure that the customer is getting the best value, that you don't have to pay ridiculous amounts to have a really fantastic perfume, and to try different lovely perfumes as well. We're really lucky, all the suppliers that I've worked with from the beginning, and they're fantastic, and that relationship has been really key to making sure that the product is also affordable. Yeah,
I think it just makes it feel very authentic as well, because it's it's accessible, and that's what is the core part of your brand. And you do see some brands, they're like, oh yeah, we're super accessible, and you're like, but your price isn't. And I think you've really put your money where your mouth is in terms of that. Let's sniff some, because I think I want to talk about two, and then we're going to talk about the new one a little bit later on. So let's talk about Gourmand, because I tried this at Barnes Fragrance Fair last year, and I'm always like a Gourmand. I'm a big fan of Gourmands, but this is such an unusual Gourmand. This to me is a very grown-up luxury gourmand. So where everyone else is going like pistachio and like candy, you're like, no, here are some really expensive figs dipped in cocoa and like just a little bit of booziness. It's Tell me about the idea behind this fragrance, because I think it's so stunning.
Gourmand was a complete mistake. We did not intend to develop a fragrance. So we had we were meeting actually. We were meeting. I think I had briefed Gourmand and the personality a long time ago, and then COVID happened. So I said, let's just leave it. Let's park development for now. We had one meeting before lockdown, and he showed me these, a selection and these two samples. And then also during that time, I had my second daughter, who's 5 and gorgeous now, but it was a really tricky time. She had colic. She screamed a lot. We were stuck at home, and I just ended up going down quite like postnatal depression. It was kind of unavoidable. I know everyone had a shit time back then, but we ended up keeping the dialogue around Gourmand going over Zoom. We just would talk about it. We would set up meetings. I would have Coco over my shoulder. He just did not mind at all that she would be kind of wailing in my arms, and actually talking about fragrance just kind of kept me going through very long days. And I think the fragrance is a result of that moment in time, that kind of need for something grown up but super comforting. And I don't think it's any coincidence that there are notes of milk, malted milk, creamy. I was breastfeeding, so there was a lot of milk around the house, and a slightly boozy note because I had been pregnant during lockdown and not drinking anything for so long. So I was definitely having a glass of wine in the evening. So there's there's rum notes in it. So it was really an expression of that year of COVID, and of us creating through scent mail. He would send me samples in the mail. He would send me strips like this wrapped in foil to preserve the fragrance. And I don't think we would have had a result like this if it had not been for that year. And it is our bestseller still. So people, I think, really connect with the feeling of grown-up comfort and indulgence that it gives you, like that. Oh, just have an extra piece of cake. I know you've had 2, but have another. Like, why not? You deserve it. Buy yourself some flowers. Yes, do it.
Yeah, absolutely. It's indulgent without being overindulgent. I love that about it. It's almost like calorie free. It's like you can have as much of this as you like, because it doesn't tip ever into heavy. It's got a lovely spaciousness to it. And how lovely that something so beautiful can come out of something that was so I suppose so difficult for you, that you've got something as a result to show, look, I got through this and I created, some beautiful things along the way.
It makes me think about that time like really positively, as opposed to like having really negative feelings. And my daughter's called Coco, so it's kind of like I just love the name, but I think there's like a connection there as well. And she loves Gourmand, so I feel like it like you said, it was a happy result of that time. And it has some really special ingredients in it, like the vanilla, I think, that you get on the dry down is so rich and unctuous, but yeah, grown up, not too sweet. It's like dark chocolate, doesn't go too saccharine. There's no white chocolate. It's got a slight bitter grown upness to it. Yeah,
it's like everything that could make it, like, because it's fun, but it's not frivolous. Everything that could make it frivolous is like a switch in the quality and the luxury. So it's like, okay, if you were to make it frivolous, it would be dairy milk, but this isn't dairy milk. This is like some hand-wrapped bar that you found at a specialist chocolate shop, and like everything is like a really luxurious, elevated version of what it could be. And I love that about it, because you're just like, it's like figgy berry plumminess is just so subtle. I think the whole thing is really brilliant, and I immediately bought a bottle when I was at Barnes, because I was like, I need to have this.
that's so good.
I was like, I have to have this in my life. It's so good. The second one I want to talk about is skin. So skin is this slightly unusual thing for you because it's a much more abstract concept. Skin, tell me a bit about skin. What's it for and what was the idea behind it?
Skin, I'm not just saying this, it really was another accident, like a genuine accident. I didn't have skin as part of my original collection plan at all, but I had always spoken to the perfumer about musks and my obsession with musks, which kind of dates back to the Body Shop White Musk, which was another of my early formative collection perfumes. And so there is a red thread of this kind of musk, signature musk accord that runs through all of the fragrances. And one of our meetings in the hotel, he had brought with a little bottle, and it just said, on the top, it just said Skin O. And I said, oh my God, what's that? Can I smell it? And I smelt it and was like, Jesus, we need to bottle this. And he said, you can't. It's too expensive. Can't afford it. And that obviously made me be like, yes, we can. We must have it. And so we just bottled that, and it is just a super concentrated, a super concentration of natural and synthetic musks. And because it is so adaptive, as like musky notes are, and animalic and a little bit dirty, I felt like this is a bit your skin and a bit the fragrance. And that's when it felt like it's your scent, it's your fingerprint, it's your scent fingerprint when you wear it. It just changes so much. So that's when we had the idea to fingerprint the bottles. So you get an archival ink pad in your box and you fingerprint it. So it really becomes, the whole bottle becomes yours. It is a bit more expensive, but it's just a very expensive orris in it. It's a reflection of what, I mean, orris is expensive, full stop, but it's a reflection of the ingredients in here. And I always say to people, a little goes a long way. You don't need a lot of this. It holds, it's very fixative on your skin. I mean, I spray it on myself every day, and my whole wardrobe, smells like skin for months and months and months. Yeah. That skin.
It's so beautiful, and I love that little personal touch of putting your fingerprint on it, so kind of owning it for yourself. But it layers so well with the others, so it layers beautifully with Gourmand because it just kind of gives it that velvety character, and just kind of amplifies the texture. It's a very textural fragrance, I would say, because it has that softness, cashmere-like feel to it. It's really, really beautiful. Just so unusual to have that in your collection, I think. And then almost how do you layer it with others? And I know we tried it yesterday with the new fragrance as well. It just brought out different kind of character of that.
Put it like scent magnifier, like you can wear it on its own or layer it with Olfactive O, ideally. But if you are naughty and layer it with someone else's fragrance, then you can. It's like an extra bloom. It doesn't interact with another, really heavy note-led fragrance that you layer on top. It just boosts it.
Yeah, gives it a bit more space and diffusion. Okay, we have to talk New Earth because New Earth has been a long time coming. This is your latest launch, and it's a fragrance that's been 10 years in the making, which you launched, at the time we're recording this, launched it last night, and I think it's first available at Barnes Fragrance Fair.
I should say.
Pre-orders are live. I think by the time this goes out, it will be fully available. If it hasn't sold out at Barnes, we don't know how that will go. Hopefully, fingers crossed. So tell me about the moment you first had the idea for this, because it's 10 years in the making.
Yeah. New Earth, originally called early doors, was called just Green, was one of my dream perfumes on the earliest mood boards that I showed the perfumer. Mainly because of where I'm from, where my family is from in Switzerland. I had always wanted to bottle the personality that that connects with the mountain, that deep feeling of peace and calm and shoulder drop that you get when you are in that kind of amazing alpine landscape. But I didn't have the confidence to do it. It had always been one that we had started or considered, and it leans into the perfumer's sort of natural preferences in the way of perfume making. He loves aromats and green fragrances, but we just I don't know. I didn't feel like I was there yet in terms of my perfume growth, and I was scared because it represents so much of who I am and where my family is from. So it was last January that I said, let's do this. Let's make green, and it went on such a journey over a year and a half that it became New Earth, like, which feels like a real expression of the development of the fragrance and how it has evolved.
New Earth is luminous, rooted, and present. So tell me a little bit about who is this person? Who is New Earth?
So when I think about the personality that you feel and that you become in that mountain space, it is someone who wants to reconnect, who wants to instantly step away from everything digital, probably slightly scared of AI, but embracing it, but loves going on calming walks, really likes the idea of gardening, but's probably not very good at it, but kind of thrives off human interaction, being with people, bringing people around a table like we were last night. So it is someone who is sort of glowing, luminous, radiant from being around others, but also a very calming, grounded presence. They kind of probably wear a lot of heirloom clothing. They like to make things by hand. And they're very settled in their own skin. So that is the personality that we settled on. It wasn't the original personality. I think I originally imagined compassionate and wise, but that was 10 years ago. And it's now a green New Earth personality, I think, is someone who is existing quite differently in the world now.
It's absolutely glorious, and I think it is. I was sort of at loss for words when I first smelled this, because it's just so phenomenally complex, but also so clear about what it is. And I find it's because it's like lovely, like fresh, bracing greenery, and then it gets over time there's such a strong transition into the warmth, into the soil, shooting down roots into the earth, and this like umami facet that comes through. It's just so wonderfully complex, and I'm so glad that you took your time to create it, because I think it is just beautiful, out of this world. It's such a wonderful fragrance.
It was the first versions that we smelt together was an accord. They weren't complete fragrances, but it was an accord called Herbal Essence. He always gives each of these accords, he comes up with wild names, but Herbal Essence he had called it. And then we had something called Primal Earth, and we had something called S03E Earth, which was quite a sort of musky earth base, as you can imagine with ISO Super. And I wanted a blend of them, that kind of effervescent top with the base. So we went on this journey of adding quite a lot of labdanum, like a really thick labdanum, a lot of myrrh, a lot of fir, a lot of melilot, which is quite rich and resinous. And we ended up making it quite much heavier on the base. It lost that alpine aura feeling, so we did take our time to get that back, and it took a while, to get a fragrance that has the freshness that this has on top with the shiso and the peppercorn and the elemi, to then also root that down, but in a way that doesn't swamp it and take away the freshness is quite a challenge to add that depth. And that did take an extra 2 months, I think, than we anticipated. But I know it was worth it.
Yeah, that's a massive technical challenge, isn't it? Because the more weighty stuff you put in the base, it almost pulls it down and swamps it. So to keep that bracing refreshingness and that coolness and that herbalness at the top, I just think, yeah, it's wonderful. And I think it's going to be one of those fragrances I'm really interested to see how people react to. Now, I have a theory about this fragrance.
Okay, tell me.
Because, a key theme of the fragrance is sharing, and the personality centers on this idea of like openness and generosity. And when I think about you as a person, and think about like last night, how you invited us all into your home to share a table with food and sake pairings, and exploring all of those composite parts of New Earth, it did make me wonder is New Earth's personality, Olivia, distilled in some way? Because when I think of you, I think of openness and generosity. And you can completely disagree with me if you want to, but I just feel like there's a big part of Olivia in this fragrance that I see. I don't know whether you feel that.
It's really, really lovely of you to say. I think I want to be each element of each of the personalities actually. Like I would
Mm.
love to be a full New Earth personality, but I actually kill houseplants. I I have the basil pot from the supermarket, and I'll be lucky if it lasts a week. But I do love gathering and bringing people together, and I think ultimately each of the perfumes, it because a lot of it does come from my head and the perfumer's head, and there is inspiration from people around us. I suppose each of them has a little bit of me in them. So and the timing of developing all of them has kind of been the personality that I felt like needs to be projected at that particular time. Like Gourmand being that moment in time during lockdown, and Citrus was a real sort of celebration of recovery from postnatal depression, and was very much the most outgoing, sparkly personality. So, is New Earth me? I'd love it to be, but maybe that's why I really want to wear it so much. It makes me feel like I am it. Luminous. No.
Yeah, they're all a little bit Olivia in their own way, and I think that's the good thing about having the personalities is we may each resonate with a part of each one, or a difficult one, a different elements of each one. And also, what's quite interesting is when you say about I want to be that person. Well, fragrance can be that. It can be a costume, can't it? New Earth can maybe on those days when you need to feel more grounded, can be the bit that gives you that sense of grounding. So I think that's really what's so wonderful about having a personality for each of them.
I think the most amazing thing about fragrance, about New Earth perfume, and about last night is that it brings people together,
Mm.
because you have to be next to someone to smell it and to experience it. New Earth is very much about being with people, that part of yourself that wants to that needs human interaction, connection.
Yeah. And that's something you've explored with this book. So you've created a really special book, which is called New Earth: A Shared Table, and this features recipes, cocktails, and playlists from 12
Playlist.
contributors. I know I've contributed a playlist for it. And what was the idea behind the book? Where did that come from?
I wanted to make the open up New Earth in new ways, to to bring people into the world of New Earth as that personality would. They would want to share and open up enjoyment. And so and because also I think the New Earth personality does a lot of cooking and hosting and gathering, and probably has those recipe books that where they scribble down like their grandmas or their moms, or family recipes that date back a long time. And I just had this idea of bringing people together into a recipe book, because I love drawing. I trained as a fine artist and a painter. There was also something selfishly very enjoyable for me about sitting down and illustrating these recipes, and something that is, what the perfume is about. Actually using your hands, craft, creating, even if it's not perfect, it doesn't matter. It's that feeling of doing very human things.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's really beautiful. And for the first orders of the fragrance, you'll get the book alongside it and see some amazing recipes and cocktails, and you can listen to music that kind of gives the vibe of New Earth. It's a really really cool project, beautifully
There's,
illustrated by you.
like, there are some gorgeous recipes in there, like an
Mm.
iconic banana bread, because I'm always chasing the holy grail of banana breads, and Alice Duparc's amazing Provençal tomato tart made by her daughter Belle, brought to life. And I think everyone needs to cook that recipe because it's amazing. And your playlist and Hayden's playlist, which you get QR code and go straight through. And we were listening to it last night. I didn't say that, by the way. We were listening to it last night. I thought it was wicked. So yeah, there's some, and cocktails, some really lovely cocktails. So yeah, I hope there's something in there for everyone.
Yeah, it's really lovely, and I cannot wait to cook that tart. I was reading the book on the way home on the train. I was like, but also like all the lovely like personal elements that everyone brought into it. I thought it was just really, really touching. Now, before I let you go, because I would love to continue this chat forever, but we can't. Podcasts are finite entities. What's next for Olfactive O? What do you see for the future?
I'm going to have a really good sleep tonight, I think. And then after the launch, no, I'm kidding. When people ask me this, and I know it sounds naff, but all I want to do is keep creating. I just love creating, and I need to find more ways to do that because as the brand grows and which is wonderful, and I'm thrilled, and more customers find us, I can't necessarily keep doing things in the way that we're doing. So I need to kind of look at how we build and grow, but in a way that holds on to what the brand is all about, which is small batch, artisanal, very human, very personal, and people being able to connect to how and see how things are made. So keep creating. I would love to work on home fragrance, not on my own, but maybe with another brand, something we're looking at. Like, what is your room personality? What is your house personality? So many people say to me, I want to scent my room with fruity. I just want fruity in my room, especially at Christmas, interestingly. So I would love to explore that. And more sniff and sips. Lots more sniff and sips. They are, the heart of what we do, a way of sharing the experience, connecting people to their perfume personalities, and seeing people sit there and feel the scent with their eyes closed, and smell and taste is like the most magical thing for me. So I would love to keep doing more of those. We've just did the sake pairing last night, so we've got that coming up in June at Boots, a customer sake pairing for the first time. So I'm thrilled about that. More mezcal pairings. We've got the 21st of May at Wild Iris Perfumery. We're doing New Earth with mezcal with the Lost Explorers. So yeah, quite a few things.
Amazing. Well, I, for one, cannot wait to see all of that come to fruition. Whatever you do, I know it's going to be exciting. So thank you, Olivia. It's been a pleasure talking to you as always.
Thank you, Thomas. Thank you so much.
It was so lovely to bond with Olivia over our shared mushroom haircut-based trauma. I feel like the 90s really did a number on us there. Anyway, wasn't that just a fascinating insight into a really unique niche brand? I love the creative process Olivia and her top secret perfumer have forged, and the results are truly stunning. If you want to seek out the brand, then there is a discovery kit available on the brand's website. You can also head to the Boots Fragrance Boutique in Broadgate City, London, to sniff them in person. Find out more about Olfactive O on their website, olfactiveO.com, or by following them on Instagram at olfactive_O. I'll put those details in the show notes for you. As always, I really do look after you. What can I say? That's it for this week. Thanks for tuning in. A massive thank you to Carium, our sponsor for this episode. I'm all about making fragrance and fragrance discovery more accessible, and Carium's innovative AI solution, the Scent Sommelier, offers an entirely new way to explore fragrance by translating scent into language. You can find out more at carium.com. As usual, I will hand over to our guest to tell us the fragrance they have an emotional connection with. After all, fragrance is an emotional art form. If you want to follow me on Instagram, you can at Making Sense Make Sense. But for now, Olivia, take us away. I'll see you next week.
So fragrance that I have a real emotional connection to is this fragrance here. There's hardly any left and it's gone quite dark. It is a development sample that the perfumer and I worked on right at the beginning. It's called he called it Maganosk Nuit, and it is basically a full-blown shoulder pad tuberose fragrance, like deep, nose in, narcotic, intense, massive. I love it. I think it's the most amazing thing I've ever smelt, but I am not yet in my confident shoulder pad personality era. So I am waiting on the time when I get there and I'm ready to launch this. This might be the next one. It's glorious. And the wonderful thing about it is I just don't think we need to change it at all. It's just perfect. So when I launch this, I think I will have hit my, I'm turning 40 in next month. So maybe 40s, they say, you kind of get to that point in your life. So I'm hoping this will be the next one.